There are some days I'm really proud to be an MP and the level of debate in this chamber. And there's some days like today when, quite frankly, the Leader of the Opposition was absolutely appalling. She continues to talk over people, not listen, laugh at people while they're talking about an issue that is very, very serious. People out there are scared as a result of this judgment, and they will... Could you maybe let me speak? Sorry, apologies. Sorry, could the honourable member allow me the politeness of not speaking over me?
Keep going.
My question, and I will ask a question, when it...
Order. I do appreciate that feelings are running high in this statement. However, please do ask your question and put it on the record.
Do you think that, does the Secretary of State agree with me, the debate in this chamber is listened to by those people who are today scared, and the behaviour of the Leader of the Opposition in talking over people, laughing at people, and when cis men violence was mentioned, the opposite benches laughed. Yeah. That does not reassure women or trans women in this country. Does she agree?
Secretary of State.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I agree that where we discuss these matters, they are sensitive and they do generate strong feelings. And it is, of course, right that in this House we are able to engage in robust discussion, including on issues that might at times be difficult. But I accept the point that my honourable friend is making, that we do need to treat one another with respect and understand the need. So much for dignity and respect, eh?
I don't know if anyone else in the House has butch lesbian friends and have been with them when they've been told to get out of women's toilets, but I have. And it is not pleasant and it's not nice. So those people that are using this as a political football, again, should be ashamed of themselves. Madam Deputy Speaker, people didn't understand. If you're saying that trans women have to use men's toilets, and as my honourable friend said, trans men then have to use women's toilets, how are you going to stop them? By asking to see their genitalia? It makes no sense. But does my honourable friend agree with me that the service providers for refugees who provide a vital service for women in desperate need and often use their discretion are now fearful that they can no longer use their discretion when providing services?
Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the Supreme Court judgment set out that single-sex spaces are provided on the basis of biological sex, but I do recognise the concern that my honourable friend raises. Lesbians should not be treated in a discriminatory way, and we must ensure that there are toilets and facilities available for everyone within our country. So I just say to her that through the guidance that the EHRC will set out, there will be additional clarity provided in the areas that she has identified.
In Britain today, trans women are denied safe housing, refused essential healthcare and left waiting years for gender-affirming treatment. This is not accidental. It is the result of a climate of hostility against a marginalised community fuelled by people in positions of power, including in this very chamber. So let me be clear, trans people are not a debate, a culture war or an ideology. They are human beings and trans rights are human rights. So I ask the Minister, will this government ensure that it doesn't pander to hate? Will it reverse its damaging rollback of LGBT+ rights, including the ban on puberty blockers, and unequivocally defend the Equality Act and the protections it provides for trans people across the UK?
Minister.
The Honourable Lady asked a number of questions there. What I can say to her is that trans people, of course, deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, and they retain rights to live their lives free of discrimination and harassment as set out in the Supreme Court judgment. She asks about puberty blockers. I'm afraid there is going to be no change to government policy in this important area.
Research shows that half of trans people already fear using public toilets. So I am deeply, deeply concerned about the impact of comments by the Minister and the Prime Minister's spokesperson that trans people should use a toilet that many of them would not feel comfortable or safe in. So I ask, how would trans people's exclusion from toilets they have long used be a proportionate means of achieving a legitimate aim, as the Supreme Court Judges and Equality Act dictates? And would the Minister like to clarify that there is nothing in law, in fact, which requires trans women to use men's toilets, or trans men to use women's toilets, or non-binary people to use one corresponding with the sex they were assigned at birth?
Madam Deputy Speaker, the Supreme Court's judgment was clear on biological sex, but I do understand and recognise the need to ensure that there is provision, including toilet facilities and other provision in place for everyone within our society. That's why many businesses, many service providers also provide unisex provision, why many service providers will also put in place enclosed bathrooms that do not require people to make that decision, to ensure that their dignity and privacy is respected. That is important for all people in our country, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. And anybody watching this at home today will think that the lunatics have taken over the asylum, which they quite clearly have. Now, I don't need a Supreme Court judgment or ruling to tell me that a bloke shouldn't be in a women's changing room. So I want to ask the Secretary of State a very simple question for more clarity. Can a woman have a penis?
I tell you what, blokes shouldn't beat up women. Maybe he should have a word with his colleague.
James Asser.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Secretary of State will not be surprised to hear that I've had a lot of correspondence on this, and there is great concern amongst the trans community what the impact is, but also the wider LGBT community, that in this populist age it may signal a move away from the progress on LGBT rights. I welcome, therefore, her statement that there is going to be guidance. Can she make sure that is very clear and widely distributed so it is understood? But can she also assure the LGBT community and this House that this government and this party, as it long has, stands foursquare behind the advancement of LGBT rights, and we will defend any attempt to row back the progress of the last 30 years or the gains of the last Labour government?
Secretary of State.
Madam Deputy Speaker, my humble friend is right to draw attention to the advances made over many decades to ensure that LGBT people are treated with dignity and have the support and ability to participate in public life that, frankly, for many people from many, many years ago was just simply not the case. We have made enormous progress in tackling prejudice and discrimination, and this Labour government will always ensure that whatever someone's background, they have every opportunity to take part in public life, to achieve all that they are capable of. And the Equality Act, one of the proudest achievements of that last Labour government, enshrines in law the right to freedom from discrimination and harassment for women, and yes, also for trans people too.